First tonight, Whitey Bulger captured. The man who replaced Osama bin Laden as the FBI's most wanted fugitive has been arrested in California.
The capture of fugitive James Bulger marks another milestone in an investigation of drug trafficking, murder, and corruption, while the family members of the alleged victims can move one step closer to seeing justice served.
The 81-year-old is wanted for 19 murders. He took off in 1994 when a retired FBI agent tipped him off that he was about to be indicted. Bulger spent 16 years on the run, and property managers say he spent almost all of that time living right here, the same Santa Monica apartment complex where he and his girlfriend, Catherine Gregg, were taken into custody last night. We have in-depth coverage tonight. Eyewitness News reporter Sean Daly is standing by with more on how Bulger may once again prove useful to federal investigators. But first, let's go to Target 12 investigator Tim White, who's been working this case for years.
Susan, a federal judge in Los Angeles has just ordered James Whitey Bulger back to Massachusetts to face charges. Both Bulger and his longtime girlfriend are being held without bail.
After 16 years, an international manhunt for James J. Whitey Bulger and his girlfriend Catherine Gregg is over. The pair found hiding in plain sight. The arrest played out quickly. Investigators say a tipster called Tuesday night. By Wednesday afternoon, FBI agents were outside Bulger's Santa Monica, California apartment conducting surveillance.
At approximately 5:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, using a ruse, agents and other task force members lured Mr. Bulger out of his apartment. Agents determined that the individual was, in fact, Mr. Bulger.
Officials would not elaborate on the ruse. Today, federal authorities could be seen hauling guns and ammunition from the apartment.
The best way to characterize it would be a variety of weapons, guns, and a very substantial amount of cash.
The U.S. Attorney's Office says Bulger and Gregg were living under the alias Charles and Carol Gasco. An apartment manager tells the Associated Press the pair lived at the Oceanside complex for 15 years.
Did he ever say anything? Was he friendly?
Not particularly.
The Bulger case is an embarrassing one for the FBI. He's accused of murdering 19 people and running a ruthless criminal organization, all while being a high-level informant for the feds.
Although there are those who have doubted our resolve at times over the years, it has never wavered.
Reports from the West Coast say Bulger was smiling and chatty with other prisoners in the courtroom for his hearing. Authorities expect Bulger to be returned to Boston within 48 hours. He will appear at federal court in South Boston. That's the same neighborhood where investigators say Bulger's reign of terror lasted for decades. Susan?
And so I would imagine, we know, along with this arrest comes a pretty fat reward.
Yeah, there is supposed to be a reward of $2 million for any information leading to the arrest of Whitey Bulger and $100,000 for Catherine Gregg. At the press conference today, they said the Department of Justice is figuring out if anybody has earned that money.
So there seems to be rumblings that the FBI really wasn't doing all it could to find Bulger. Is that the case?
Well, the perception was Bulger had a lot of secrets, and that the FBI didn't want him to be found because he had all those secrets. Of course, the FBI denied that again at the press conference, probably for the 100th time, and they will keep denying that forever. They did point out that they're the ones that made the arrest, and I would also say that there was a Whitey Bulger task force that included other law enforcement agencies, particularly the Massachusetts State Police, and I can tell you the State Police in Massachusetts wanted Whitey Bulger, and they wanted him bad.
Yeah, it's just amazing. There he was in plain sight in Santa Monica. You think about Osama bin Laden and how he was basically in plain sight right there under people's noses for years living, and yet we're just now finding out what he was doing. It's going to be interesting to see how all of this unravels. So you worked in Boston for 10 years. I know you've been on top of the mob for years professionally. What was the perception there of him?
Well, at the time, in the early years there, his perception was a sort of Robin Hood, particularly in the South Boston neighborhood, that he kept those streets safe for his people and that he blocked drugs from coming in. The FBI will tell you that's not the case, that he made money in dealing drugs, they allege, and that in his circles anyway, he was the worst of the worst. It turned out he was a rat, a criminal informant for the FBI, so his perception over the past 15, 16 years has changed dramatically.
Right, it's amazing to see that stash that they came out with, all the guns and the cash.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash.
Oh my goodness.
It was amazing.
All right, thanks so much, Tim White. Well,